button. Ooh. Hi, Legs.
Hi. So you were talking about the, I love the term familiar zone versus comfort zone. Because it's not comfortable. It's the reason it's comfortable is because it's familiar. Humans don't like change.
Sorry, one thing.
Yeah.
Humans like change. Humans don't like transition. If you could snap your fingers tomorrow and have things be different, you'd be like, I'm on board with that. But it's the process getting to that you don't like.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So for me, in the relationship that I was in for 15 years, I wasn't in a place where I was like, oh, if I end this, I won't be loved. It was such an immense fear of confrontation with him. Mm-hmm. So the 3 days to 3 months of, really uncomfortable conversation of us ending the relationship. And it was also the fear of what would happen to him as a result of us ending the relationship, because he was in a place where I felt like I was really taking care of him physically, and I was really concerned what would happen to him as a result of me ending the relationship. So it wasn't a place for me to be like, I'm staying in this relationship because I need to feel love. Maybe it was that to some degree, but the larger degree was more fear of him and what would result for me doing that. And it took me having a blockbuster movie level of extreme experience for me to be like, oh, okay, this is not working for me and I need to get out of this situation.
Yeah, it's hard to watch somebody like actively but slowly killing themselves, right? But are you gonna like let them take you down with them? Like you're also actively slowly dying, maybe maybe not physically, but along with them.
No, I was very much, I described myself as a shell of a human being. Like I had lost a lot of the ability to even have emotions. I was very much a robot. Like my sense of my own identity was lost. Like it was very much all focused on him, and it was anything I could do to basically keep him alive and to keep us surviving day to day without us having a shouting match or whatever. It really was not a great way to live. And yeah, things have obviously shifted since then.
Yeah. And something that I was asked, or that has been asked of me, is like, Tyler, how is love being served here? And that's not love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If one person is actively making choices that is going to impact another person in that way, like that isn't love. That's not love. And it's hard to watch that happen in somebody. I mean, I've seen that happen in several members of my family, of people solely killing themselves, even if it's not may not seem like an active choice. Their decision making is bringing about their death. I've seen that with several people in my life, including my own father, my older brother, like several people. It's so hard to watch, but and I did everything I knew how to do to try and prevent that, but they made it very clear to me that they had no interest in changing their actions or their behaviors. And that's their right as human beings to continue to do that thing. It's also my choice as a human being to say, I don't want to watch this anymore. I'm not going to watch you actively kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I didn't use those words, right? But, I got to the point, and I talk about my relationship with my dad quite a bit, because things changed in his life very quickly at a certain point in his life. And I loved my father a lot, and we didn't have a great relationship, like, but it wasn't bad by any means. It wasn't rocky, it wasn't strained or anything like that. And every time I saw him, I just watch him wither away and become less and less of who he was.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was like, this relationship needs to change, and it's very clear that you're not going to be the change that happens, and I need to, and I cannot. I couldn't go into that relationship completely loving and as the son that I wanted to be in that relationship, and something had to change, and I knew it had to be me. And so I couldn't look at the things that he, like the way, I couldn't focus on the ways that he was killing himself anymore. And so that meant that I had to spend less time with him, and I had to focus more on other things whenever I was with him, and that completely changed that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, it meant that I wasn't spending as much time with him. However, I was still able to go into that relationship without all of that weight and all of that judgment, and I got to just exist as his son, you know. And so whenever he passed away, I didn't have any regrets. I didn't have to go into his funeral with like I wish I would have, or I should have, or anything. There were no regrets. There were no what ifs or anything like that. Like, he died knowing exactly how I felt about him, because I did what I had to do to make sure that I was able to exist in that relationship in a positive way. And that's how love was being served, you know. Like, I had to pull away from that relationship for a while and kind of like figure out my own shit with that relationship before I could go back into it, so that I went back into it with different tools and a different focus and just better love than what I was able to go in with before.
Yeah.
He didn't have to change. I had to change. It was my job. Because he wasn't gonna, like, he was fine, you know, as far as he was concerned.
Right.
He had no interest in doing anything differently. He wasn't unhappy. It seemed to me as though he was, but he wasn't saying, like, my life should change, I need to do these things differently. I was telling him that. And as soon as I stopped telling him that, that is when our relationship changed. That's when it got positive again.
Yeah.
You know? No grown man needs to be told, this is how you should be living your life. You know? Nobody wants to hear that. I don't.
Right. Beautifully said. For my relationship, you know, once I hit rock bottom in that ICU, where my husband was in the ICU, like, and I finally began to seek help, that was my first experience with developing a relationship with myself, and my first time ever even learning the term boundaries. And my first experience obviously was setting them, and because they had never been set before, and it was such an extreme unhealthy relationship, they were not well received, they were not respected, and it got to the point where, you know, the abuse and the threat of self-harm were so extreme that I realized, with the help of my therapist and Al-Anon supporters, that it was safest and healthiest for me to cut off all contact from him, to lovingly part ways. And I have not spoken to him since, and this was the summer of 2019, so this is over 3 years ago. And that was obviously a huge life-altering decision, to not only end the relationship that I had been in for 15 years, but to cut it off with not a clean slate, but like there is no contact beyond this point. That was a big deal, and I had tried leading up to that point to like do whatever I could to make it a healthier relationship, and that I could very clearly see that wasn't going to happen. In fact, my efforts toward that place were, it became even worse and even more turbulent relationship than it had been even prior to my rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so I saw it just wasn't going to work, and beyond that, like it wasn't a safe environment for me to even try to have a conversation about breaking up in a healthy, loving, adult way. And so that was my experience, and since that time, like, he has had his 40th birthday, and we've had several wedding anniversaries and dating anniversaries that have passed, and I still very much think about that relationship and reflect on that, and think about him from time to time. And I wish him the best, and I am so grateful for that relationship. I obviously would not want to repeat any of that, like go back and experience that again. But I am so grateful for that experience, because not only has it brought me the awareness that I have now of my relationships that have only since gotten amazingly better since then in terms of romance, but it has also given me a passion for helping people in their relationships. And I see so many challenges that are so similar to mine, with gay men and with others as well, like of experiencing these patterns with really abusive, codependent relationships involving substance abuse or not. Like, everybody's got their shit, and some relationships have more toxicity than others, but like, I love helping people with that, and to resolve and to heal those patterns and to move more towards what you want. And it all starts with your relationship with yourself. I call myself a relationship coach, and I'm obviously all about helping you navigate your relationships with other people, romantically and otherwise, but where it starts is your relationship with yourself.
Preach. The whole thing I said about how is love being served here, sometimes the best way that love is being served is to end a relationship.
Yeah.
There are some people in my life that I don't have the capacity, the tools, the whatever to continue a relationship with those people, because I know that, like, I will go into that relationship and I just feel awful. I'm like, I don't want to be around you. I hate you. I'm judging you. You know what I mean? Like, those types of things, for whatever reason, like good or bad. I don't really believe in like associating those words anymore, because there's judgment with that, and like along with some of that comes shame and ego, and like that doesn't matter. But what I do know is that, like, if that's the stuff that I'm bringing into this relationship, it's not serving me, and it's not serving you, and it's not serving this relationship. So clearly something needs to change. And if this isn't working for either of us, in my opinion, like, I don't need to be in this relationship, or I need to change the way that this relationship is in my life, and that's my job, right? Because if I'm having these feelings, this is my job to change this somehow. And so sometimes the best way, the way that love is served in relationships, is by saying, I'm not going to be a part of this anymore. And that sometimes can be the most loving option, and people a lot of times don't know what that's like.
Yeah, that's exactly what my therapist said to me. So the day I left my ex-husband, it was a whirlwind of a day, because I had not told anybody. When I cut off contact with him, like, it was safest for me to literally only tell one person what I was doing. I couldn't let on to anybody else. And so it was a lot keeping that inside and making a plan for what to pack and how to go about it. And it finally came to fruition, and thankfully the day I packed and left was I went to a therapist session literally from this house to there, and so that timing was great. And I broke down crying, and she reminded me, I think she had said this before, but it's like, you, meaning me, you did the most loving thing that you could do for him by leaving, because by you staying, you were just perpetuating that relationship dynamic that wasn't serving either one of you.
Yeah.
By me staying, I would have subconsciously or consciously said to him, like, yeah, this is okay that you continue to drink and continue to treat me the way that you're treating me, because I had set the boundaries and he wasn't respecting them, and that really was the only way for both of us to have any possibility of healing and moving on.
Yeah. Love.
And since that time, I wanted to talk a little bit about like my relationship dynamic since then, because I talked to a lot of people who have been in patterns of relationships like what I experienced. Since I took ownership of my life and my relationship with myself, I have since experienced, this is now my third really healthy relationship, ongoing long-term relationship with a man. And they have gotten increasingly more connected, more loving, more healthy along the way. And it's a reflection of my own relationship with myself, which is what I continue to talk about. And I have learned so much from each relationship, and I cherish each of those men. And now I'm in a place where I've shared in videos before, like it feels effortless. And I know that can sound like a fairy tale or unattainable. I know that if I had heard myself saying that 4 years ago, I'd be like, that's not real. That's not possible, because I'm experiencing this over here, which is very different from that, where that phrase of like, relationships are hard work, you have to work at them every single day. There's so much I want to say to that. Like, relationships do require effort, whether they're romantic or friendships, family, etc. But I know that the phrase relationships are hard work, and this is even on the back cover of my book, like, that phrase can be really misleading, because I believed for a long time that relationships are hard work meant that my 15-year relationship of exhausting, long-winded arguments of like shouting at each other was normal.
I'm doing it right. Look how hard I'm working.
Relationships are hard work. And they can be hard work, but they don't have to be. And the more work you do on yourself, and the more nurturing and loving and kindness, all the stuff that you show to yourself that you want to receive from other people, the easier and more effortless it gets with other people. Again, romantically, but also friends, family, etc. Like, I feel really blessed and fortunate that my closest relationships, not just Tyler, but a lot of my really good friends, like, I can just be myself. Unabashed, unfiltered. I don't have to think about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, any of that bullshit. I can just be, and I know that there's not going to be judgment or raised eyebrows or any of that stuff on the other end. Because there's that level of openness and vulnerability between us that we can just share, because we've been through some stuff and we know what we've experienced in the past that didn't work, and now we get to just enjoy what we have now. And it's not necessarily easy to get to that place. It's not like you snap a finger or flip a switch and you get to that spot. It takes practice of like, oh God, I'm feeling some butterflies in my stomach of what I'm going to say right now. I don't know how this person's going to receive it. For example, me on our third, fourth date of like, you know what? I wanted to claim my decision of like, I really want an open relationship with us. I had no idea how he was going to receive that. I knew that in my mind, I was really enjoying our company and not wanting to change that, but I was going to claim what I wanted in that moment and trust that however he responded was going to be in my best interest. But that's fucking scary, and it's not easy to put yourself out there and possibly be rejected for who you are and what you want. But that's what gets you to that place of having these relationships that just flow and are, like I said, effortless, is by putting yourself out there.
I would agree with most of what you just said.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I talked about earlier, I can't control anything that anybody else brings into a relationship, right? All I can control is what I am bringing into the situation. So, I do my best to approach every relationship that I have the same way, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the relationship is. What is my goal for life as a human with every interaction that I have? And I do my best to, and of course I'm not perfect at this because I am a human. I do my best to bring that to every situation that I'm in with every single person, regardless of whether it is a person that I am seeing for 35 seconds, 35 minutes, or 35 years, right? Mm-hmm. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. That's all I have, right? Is what I'm presenting to everybody. And I think that I often talk about is being bulletproof. And what I mean by that is like emotionally bulletproof. Because if I have done the work that I need to do to know who the fuck I am inside and out, and I have a balanced view of myself, and I understand here are the things that I'm lacking. I don't like that word. Different word. Here are the like deficiencies. I don't like that word either. There's too much judgment associated with some of these words, but like here are the things that like make me who I am.
It could be
right?
Different. Yeah.
Right. I love that. Thank you. Good job. Here are the things that could be different, and here are the things that I love about myself, or the things I want to improve. Right. Yeah. When I have that balanced view of myself, somebody else's opinion of me no longer matters. Mm-hmm. Right. Like I have done a lot of work to know that I am lovable, because I didn't know that for a long time. But I have done a lot of work to know that, like, no, I'm fucking lovable, and I'm a goddamn prize. Right? And anybody that chooses to have me in their life is really fucking, like, they should be grateful for that, because I've done a lot of work to, like, not make the person that I am, but to uncover all of the bullshit to be the true person that I really am.
And for you to know that you are lovable.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. But also to be able to love other people unconditionally, mostly unconditionally as much as I possibly can, with my full heart. Yeah. Like I have done a lot of work to be capable of those things. And if I know that about myself by working on my relationship with myself, which then reflects on other people, I can go into every single relationship, as long as I'm being honest with myself, going into every single relationship just with those things that I know that I have, and to say, there is no rejection. You cannot reject me because, as I talked about earlier, I've already chosen that I belong. And if you don't want to be here, that's okay. I still love you anyway.
Yeah.
But goodbye. And it's removing the shame, the guilt, the positive, the negative, the yes, the no. There is no rejection.
Mm-hmm.
It is a matter of, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? And if I don't work for you, great. That's fine. I hope you find something else that does. But it's removing the expectation and the judgment and all that other crap that doesn't have to exist with between people.
Yeah.
Because we're just people.
I 1000% agree with you, and the reason I use the word rejection is because so many people, like my old self, there's so much fear around that. And I imagine a lot of people watching this video, like, rejection is a very real area of discomfort and a reason why they're not pursuing the life that they really want.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, like, not everybody is a fit for everybody. And when you are your true authentic self, you're actually probably going to resonate with fewer people for that reason. When you try to please everybody, you're actually not pleasing anybody because you yourself are draining your energy. And when you try to be this persona for 100 people, it's not going to connect with people. Whereas when you are your true authentic self, 5 or 10 of those people are going to love you, love you for who you are, and the other 90 may not, and that's okay. You probably you don't probably want to be around those 90 people anyway. But it's so hard for people to realize that, especially for gay men, because we grow up in a place where we felt we rejected ourselves for being gay. And so we tried so hard to be loved by other people by trying to please them in other ways, and we carried that into our adulthood. And that can be really hard to heal from and recover from and to change that mindset.
Yep. Correct. Yeah. But my response to that would be, yeah, that sucks. Do it anyway.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for the world to change, you're gonna be waiting a long time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are hard truths that have to be swallowed. Yeah, that sucks. That's really hard. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
What are you gonna do for
exactly? Yeah. Do you want to wait for the world to change? Do you want to wait for the entire United States of America to say, we are sorry, you can be happy now?
Yeah.
Or do you want to do something differently and choose to be happy yourself? Because you would probably be waiting a long time.
You only have control over your own life, your own decisions, your own thoughts.
Right.
You have no control over what other people do, say, think.
Right.
Etc.
And if you're still going into relationships knowing how they have ended or how they go for years, what makes you think things are going to be differently? Mm-hmm. I was told all the time, Tyler, you're going to that well and it's dry. Why do you keep going to that well when you know that it's dry?
Yeah.
That is not on them anymore.
And that's
I know
big
that
part of it. I see so many people jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship and thinking that it's going to be different each time. But if you don't heal the stuff within yourself of why you're attracting these relationships in the first place, you're just going to keep attracting the same patterns, whether it's a narcissist or an alcoholic or whatever it is. like it's just going to keep happening until you take a deep look at yourself.
Right.
And there's no shame, there's no blame. It's not your fault that you are attracting these relationships. But you do have a responsibility for your own life, and your relationship with yourself is a direct reflection to your relationships that you have with other people. And so you do have a responsibility to look at why you're creating these experiences for yourself.
You're nicer than I am.
What?
So you're nicer than I am.
How would you say that?
You continue to choose the same types of relationships over and over again. What's the common denominator here?
Yeah.
So no, that's your fault.
Yeah, it's your responsibility.
Also your fault. Yeah, that's your responsibility. You continue to do this. Who?
Yeah.
If you choose this red pill, you are going to break out in hives. Chooses the red pill. Chooses the red pill. Chooses the red pill. Hives every time. Is that the red pill's fault?
I like to use the word responsibility because fault implies blame. And as we talked about a long time ago in this video, like there is no blame in the situation because you're only doing what you have the capacity that you know of, you know?
But I have a sneaking suspicion that those people are blaming somebody else or the world or society.
That's a really good point. Like when you're blaming other people for your problems, whether it's the guys that you're dating or, you know, the politicians in your life or your family, like none of those people are responsible for your unhappiness. You are responsible for your own unhappiness. Like I see a lot of discord in this world, and I definitely feel for the places in this world that are experiencing poverty and war and all the just horrible things that are happening. But there's only so much that you as an individual can have control and responsibility for. And the best, like the biggest way that you can help the world and make it a better place is for you to improve your relationship with yourself, because that expands outward to your closest relationships and the acquaintances that you meet. And then from that on, like that also expands outward. There's only so much you can do. That was a different soapbox and a different topic, but
no, it's so true though. Like there's a person in my life who is actively doing online dating, and they often talk about, I'm going to go on this dating app because things will be different.
Oh God.
And
oh my God, I hear that so often. No.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's the same people. Like literally, look at them. They're the same people. But if your intention, if what you're doing isn't changing, things aren't going to be different.
Right.
So,
there is maybe like a 10% difference in apps, especially, and it's different for each geographic region. Like I know that Tinder in some places is maybe more of a hookup app in some areas than others, and Grindr is obviously more of a hookup app than Tinder, for example. But it all comes back to your energy, your mindset, how you're approaching it. Like I have known people who have met their husbands on Grindr, and then it hasn't even started in a hookup. Like it doesn't matter. What matters is how you're approaching it.
Yeah. Like why are you posting nothing but torso shots on Grindr if you're looking for friends?
Friends.
That's what it says. Explain that to me, please. Explain that to me, please. I don't understand.
So how about you talk about how much you love me?
Oh, how much time do we have left on your memory of your phone? Reasons I love Ted. There's too many. That's not like a physical thing I can point to. You know, like that's not a. How do I like put? How do I sum up all of that?
Yeah, I'll start. So
The reasons you love you.
No. Well, maybe we could talk about that too.
I need this one back.
I'm pretty great.
Correct. Agreed.
The biggest reason I love you is how it's a phrase that you use. You, for me, are a place to rest.
Mm-hmm.
You are someone that I can literally just be fully myself, unfiltered. I can just say what's on my mind and not worry about how it's going to be received or anything like that. And you are such a great sounding board for not only my struggles, but my wins as well. And it's great to have someone outside of me, because you can't think yourself out of your own thoughts, no matter how much you try.
Especially you.
As a recovering overthinker, and very much still an overthinker, still working on that. Like, I can really think myself into hours of like just circular stuff, and I can voice these things to him, to you, and A, it gets it out of my head, and B, like, because you're coming from an outsider perspective, like, you can deliver a one-liner that like just completely shifts everything for me. And I share this as like, you don't have to have a romantic relationship to have that with someone. Like, you can have that with a friendship or a close family member. That is such a huge gift in someone, is being outside of your own brain, especially for someone like me, where I came from a place in a 15-year relationship where my mind was what I used to protect me, to keep me safe in all these various scenarios that would happen and the chaos that was happening in my life. And as I move on and heal from that relationship, I'm retraining my brain that I don't need to keep thinking myself in circles as much as I do, but I still very much do at this time. And it's helpful to have someone outside of that. And not only with great insights, but with non-judgment and with love, and someone who gets me. Like, that to me is the biggest reason that I can at least think of in this very moment, as far as why I so much appreciate our relationship and you.
Well,
not to mention your humor and the things we have in common and how much you make me laugh and the things we get to experience together. Like, all those things are phenomenal as well.
I love you.
I love you.
What just came to mind for me, because like ditto for a lot of that too. But I love how you're a whole realized human. Like, I'm a fiercely independent person, and I know that you were also a fiercely independent person, because we have gotten to the point in who we are as individuals where like outside stuff is just complements and additions to our lives, right? I'll speak for myself from here on, but like I know who I am as a person, and I know the things that I value and the things that I want out of life, and I get the sense that you have the same thing. And so you know, coming into this relationship, there is no you complete me bullshit, right? It's you complement me, and that you get to add a lot of stuff to my life. I get to share a lot of things with you, and then like something that I feel and say to you quite a bit is like, I can't wait to do X with you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to experience this thing with you, because they are all things that I either can do by myself or have done by myself.
Yeah.
But that experience is heightened because
Yeah.
you, as a person who's fully realized and know who you are, get to experience that as yourself. But also knowing you the way that I know you, I know that you're going to appreciate this as well. And we get to share in that appreciation. I'm not going to appreciate it because you appreciate it. We get to appreciate things together or experience things together.
Yeah.
And, you know, like with your overthinking thing, like I am that kitty as well. And I love that we get to challenge each other in that way. Like, even challenge has a negative connotation to it, but we get to give each other different ways of thinking. Probe. Ooh, okay. We went there. We get to give each other different ways of thinking about stuff because we're both very intelligent people.
Yeah. And
we are both people that think very logically and like, what is the best way to do this, right? And not in a way that's like, it's not best in what is the superior way.
Yeah.
It really is like, what is the best way to accomplish this thing? And we can get to that place with our own minds, but all of a sudden when there's two of our minds working together for that thing, like, can that sometimes be like, okay, this is a lot. Yes, absolutely. When we're both trying to accomplish the same task and we both think like, oh, here's an idea, and then we build off of each other and all of a sudden it becomes this like whirlwind of best ideas. Like that can be a thing.
Yeah.
But also sometimes it is like, I didn't think of it in that way, right? And I love that we get to do that for each other and with each other together. And yeah, there's just so much of that stuff that there are, like, it's the little things for me sometimes of like, oh, you thought of that too. That's so cute. That's so sweet. I love that I didn't have to think about this because you already did. Mm-hmm. That's something that I love about you, you know? I just love doing stuff with you because you experience a lot of life the same way that I do. And you appreciate things a lot of the same way that I do. And we get to share that stuff together.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy as a cliche, but that's true. Like, all of the cliches are true with you, but like, there's also a reason that they're cliches.
Yeah.
You know? I asked him recently, do all people feel this way in relationships that we do? Mm-hmm. Or like, is that real? Is it a thing that happens? Or, because I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe not. Maybe we're special in that. Like, we get to be special in that, but it doesn't matter because what we have, I love, and what we get to share together, I absolutely love.
Yeah. And I know that I can contrast our relationship against the very unhealthy relationship I had in the past, but also my very healthy relationships that I had in the past. And this is just on a whole new level. Like, I often struggle in my posts to put it into words in terms of what we have, because sometimes I feel like there aren't words to express it. I'm even struggling to say it now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a level of connection and depth and just getting each other that I personally have never experienced, and in my outside perspective, I don't see in a lot of relationships that in my experience.
The closest word I can think to sum up our relationship of like how I feel about our relationship is this.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, because that's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It is that moment of complete and total release and relaxation and just fully present as I am.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm
And
with
letting
you.
go of all the gunk.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we were at a winery earlier today watching this incredible sunset happen.
Oh my God.
And there were so many moments where that's exactly what I did physically. It was just exhalation and complete relax and just completely present. That's what it is for me. Is that there's no pretense, there's no bullshit, there's no judgment, there's no baggage, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just come as you are.
A place to rest.
Yeah.
As you say.
Yeah.
Which I love.
It is both my place to rest and my launch point.
Yeah. You're good.
Gemini ascendant.
Yeah.
Words.
Yeah. That's good. There was something I was going to say. I can't remember.
I just love you.
I love you too. Oh, that's what I was going to say is I like us just having that moment of loving each other. Like, I am confident if more people in this world had relationships like we have, that this world would be a different place than it is.
Yeah, I would hope.
And that's part of the reason why I do what I do. Like, I want more people to experience this and to have what we have, which is very possible for everybody who's watching this. And there's an abundance of love out there. And again, it doesn't have to be romantically. Like, you can have so much closeness with family and friends and even coworkers. Like, you make your relationships what they are by how you show up in them. And I want more people to have these experiences.
What I would say too on that note is, like, this relationship is very important to me, obviously, right? Like, this relationship is great, but the relationship that I have with myself is more important.
Yeah.
You know, like, this relationship would not be possible if I didn't do all of this work that I had done before.
Right.
We had a conversation the other day about what if 15-year-old Tyler had met 15-year-old Ted? What would that have been like? And my response was, I probably wouldn't have talked to you because I was afraid of all human beings. And that's real. Like, I was afraid of everybody.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of times I talk to people and I tell them that I'm an introvert and they don't believe me.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times whenever I'm with groups of people, I am on and, like, working that extrovert gene pretty hard.
Yep.
But, like, as a kid, I didn't talk to people because they terrified me. Like, absolutely terrified. Didn't talk to a single human soul. And if you were a homosexual, no. Again, I didn't think that I belonged with those people.
Yeah.
Those people. And so I never would be able to have a relationship like this had I not done all of that work on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. I forget what you said leading into that, but it reminded me of how this relationship, part of the reason it's so healthy is because we are unattached to each other. I think it was you were talking about how you have such a healthy relationship with yourself and how that comes first. And part of that is not being attached to any relationship that you have in your life. And that can mean that 3 years from now, like, if I want to move to another city and you don't, like, that doesn't mean we have to have some big dramatic breakup, but it's probably going to mean that we're not going to spend as much time together and we're, not going to be a couple anymore per se. I don't know, like, how that would look. But my point is, like, just because two people part ways, it doesn't have to be this big dramatic blowout. And when you're attached to a certain outcome, whether that be marriage or a friendship that lasts forever, like, that's when problems come up. Like, that's when it's so painful. That's when it causes all this grief and sadness and all that stuff. And like, when you're living for the future, it's taking you out of the present. And all I know is I really enjoy spending time with you, and I would like to continue doing that for at least another week. And probably beyond that, but who the hell knows? Like, we're both on our own individual journeys, and that could change at any time. And we've already talked about how we love each other and we love ourselves enough that if at any point one of us decides that like a different path is what's the most loving choice for ourselves at that time, we are going to be okay with that. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be probably sad, whatever might come up, but it doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing. We can have a peaceful parting of ways and be okay. And knowing that that is a very real possibility is actually what enhances what we have now, I feel like, because we're not attached to a future. There's not this pressure or this stress of like, we have to make this work and we have to find every way to like be together for the next 50 years. It's not about that.
Right. There is no expectation. There is no script.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about living our own lives that happen to coincide very nicely for the time being and seeing how long that plays out. And that might be for the next 70 years. We don't know.
Yeah.
It might be for the next 70 days. We don't know that either, you know?
Well, I think part of it too is that a relationship, the success of a relationship is not defined by its end.
Yeah.
As well. Like I remember my parents got divorced after 27 years of marriage.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to my mom about it, and she was like, my marriage failed and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, whoa, hold on. What? She's like, my marriage failed. And I was like, you were in a relationship for 27 years. And as a person that came out of that 27 years of marriage, like, you think you failed? Like, I don't think that's an accurate depiction of what happened. And she was talking to me, like I was talking to her about it, and she was like, that's a really good point. And I was like, yeah, it's a really good point. I'm a product of this marriage. You're saying that like I'm part of a failure, like really? Is that what you're saying, Mother? And like that's not how you can define a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, like what happened in that 27 years of marriage? What did you learn about yourself? Why did you leave that marriage in the first place?
Yeah.
That is a success as a part of
Absolutely.
who you are with your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
You told this person, this is no longer working for me for a reason, you know? And like just tons of stuff like that. Like there are successes along the way.
There's thankfully less and less of a stigma around divorce now, but there's still this connotation of failure around it. And having been divorced, like I say the same thing. Like if you or the other person or both are realizing it's not working for you and you're going to move towards something that does work for you, that is a success, not a failure. And just because a relationship ends doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Like, to your point, whether that relationship is 27 years or 27 days, there are things that you learn from that relationship and that you can take from that relationship into your future that are very much wins. And there's that word failure is just funny to me. Yeah.
There's a reason I'm still friends with two of my exes. Like really good friends. Because it wasn't about like, you're an awful person, throwing their things out of fifth story window, like, I hope you die. Go think about what you've done. Lighting things on fire, crying ugly tears. I mean, I cried some ugly tears with the last one, but because it needed to end, and anyway, it doesn't matter. But like, it doesn't have to be ugly.
Yeah.
I think that's the expectation, is like, you're supposed to hate that person.
Mm-hmm.
How can you be around them ever again? Didn't they hurt you? It's like, those aren't the type of relationships that I want to have.
Yeah.
You know?
My last 2 breakups since my ex were very peaceful, and there was it was non-antagonistic, and it wasn't easy, but it just was like, we want different things, and appreciate this for what it was, but it's time to go different paths.
Yeah.
I feel complete, unless you have anything else
I
to
also
say.
feel complete. I'm very tired now.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Bye. Actually, we're gay.
Kisses.